Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Ambiro. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast. Burnout and dissatisfaction at work are nothing new. In fact, a recent Gallup study found that more than 1/2 of American workers feel disengaged at their jobs. Too often, we look at work as a necessary evil. We have to do it to pay the bills, but it's not really something we're passionate about. If you're out there, does that relate to you? Are you feeling this? It's not something that brings us joy. We just have to do it. Meanwhile, business owners and leaders are left scratching their heads, wondering why their employees are unhappy and unengaged. The business suffers as a result. So what's the solution? How can businesses create an environment that engages and motivates employees where productivity and creativity actually thrive? Well, today I am joined by Dr. Tiffany Slater of HR TaylorMade. Dr. Tiffany E. Slater is the CEO and Senior Human Resources Consultant for HR TaylorMade. Her experience includes various industries, including but not limited to union and non-union organizations, pre-K through 12 public education, property management, manufacturing, and we can't forget casinos. Dr. Slater believes that people you work with are the single most important element to building a thriving future for your business. Happy people make the world a better place. And with HR TaylorMade, Dr. Tiffany strives to make the world a better place one person at a time. So what's not to love about this? Welcome to Work Trends, Tiffany.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, we're so excited to have you in the house. So listen, let's dive right in. What does it mean that people suck? And why should we blame ourselves?
Yeah. So what does it mean to say that people suck? I mean, I know that sounds crazy as an HR person for me to say that, but you have to say the whole thing together. People suck and it's our fault, because as leaders, it is our responsibility to make sure that our team has everything that they need to be successful. And when they're not successful, the first thing we have to do is look at ourselves and ask if we did all that we could to make sure that they were successful. So that's why people suck, because a lot of times we don't do our part.
I love it. It's like, let's not play the blame game. You know what I mean? But it is important to note that it's a reality that we're all facing, and everybody's got to stand up and be part of it. We can't get lazy right now.
Absolutely not.
So how can business owners or leaders ensure that people are performing at their best?
Well, it seems like a very simple question, and it's not, honestly, because there's so many factors that play into a person's ability to perform at their best. One of the things that we can do, however, is to make sure that the work environment is conducive to being successful as a team member. And that could be so many different things. But one of the things that I think is most important about a work environment is that we create an environment that people actually love. The days are gone where people are just happy to come to work for a paycheck, right, Megan?
Right.
People want to like what they do and where they do it.
Tell me about it.
Exactly. So that's one of the things. Create a work environment where people want to be, so that they want to stay. And then those individuals have a stake in ensuring the success of the organization, thereby creating their desire to be successful and do great work for your team.
So what can leaders, employees, anyone out there do to encourage team members to perform at high levels?
Well, I think that is one of the things that so many organizations struggle with. And I think the key to that is making sure that people understand what value they add to the organization. So if I am sweeping the floor in my role as a custodian, what role does my sweeping the floor play in the overall success of the organization. So we have to make sure that we draw the lines very clearly for people so that they know when you do an excellent job of keeping our organization clean, it frees us up so that we can go out and make sales calls or invite people in to our organization so that, and they, have a clean and warm and welcoming environment. So long story short, make it very clear what an individual's role is in the overall success of the organization. That propels people to want to work at their highest level.
So what are 3 things we can do to ensure that people understand the expectations for their role? Because in my experience, this is where things tend to go sideways.
It really does, because a lot of times we as leaders, we tend to think, well, they should know that. Or, well, I told them how to do X, Y, and Z, but did you really? So 3 things that we can do to make sure that people understand what is expected is 1, communicate very clearly. If you need them to have something done, you want to make sure that they understand what that something is, when it's due by, and what the parameters are as it relates to the way that you want that particular task or our project delivered. That's the first thing. So communicate very clearly. The second thing is you got to check for understanding. You can't just drop it off and leave it and expect them to know exactly what you mean. So make sure that your message was received in the way that you intended from your employee. And the last thing, check with them periodically to see where they are and to see if they have any questions or if there's anything that they need from you. And you got to move out of their way so that they can actually get it done.
I love it. And I mean, here's the $1 million question for all of us. How do you course correct if your team members are not performing well and you've allowed this behavior in the past, which so many people do?
Yes, we do. And I, as an HR person, I can even say that I am guilty of it as well.
Sign me up. Can you add me to the list, please?
Absolutely. And it is something that it just happens. I know for me, I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt probably longer than I should, because it's not serving them or my organization. But the way that we course correct behavior that we've allowed in the past is to simply course correct. You have the conversation with that individual. You say, Megan, hey, you've been doing this for quite a while. Haven't said anything because, initially I didn't think it was going to be a big deal, but I'm at the point where it's actually impacting us in whatever way it's impacting us. So you got to have a conversation with them and let them know what the problem is, what needs to change, and how it's impacting the organization.
Got to talk. Communication is love.
Yes, I agree.
So how do we hold people accountable? Because that's what this is really all about.
It really is. And unfortunately, as I work with my clients and supporting them and their teams, I find oftentimes that holding people accountable is one of those areas that we struggle with quite the most, because we give assignments and projects to people and we forget to follow up. We just assume, because we trust people, that it's going to be done according to our specifications and by the deadline. So the way that we hold people accountable is to make sure that we check on them before the due date. And it doesn't have to be a micromanaging way. It could be more of, hey, Megan, I know you're working on that project. Anything I can do to support you? Keep it simple, and just check with them. Are you on schedule to get it completed on time? It could be a very simple conversation. It doesn't have to be a micromanaging conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Because nobody likes that.
Not at all. It's no fun.
It's no fun for anybody, including the person having to do that, most importantly, right?
Absolutely.
So how do we hire people that don't suck?
How do we hire people that don't suck? That is a good question, Megan. So we hire people that don't suck by making sure that we ask the right questions up front and making sure that upon their onboarding, we have a plan already designed to support their success. So not just the orientation that we do on day one, not just introducing them to their team members, but what does their training and preparation look like for the next 3 months? If we spend time up front crafting a training program for our new team members so that they can be successful, that is a way to make sure that they don't suck. We start early by giving them what they need, as opposed to having them start working and throwing them right in and expecting them to swim. So we've got to prepare them for success very early.
Why shouldn't we just fire people that suck as opposed to taking the blame for it?
Well, the easy answer is because that's easy.
That's the easy button.
That's the easy button. But the other thing is, it's not fair. So if we are spending all of this time finding the right people, and the first sign of trouble, we decide we want to fire individuals, we are going to be recruiting and interviewing and hiring and training all of the time. That is no fun, and it costs so much money. So that's why we shouldn't just fire people that suck. So obviously, there will be times when it's necessary, but that should not be our first response in those situations when it comes to performance. We should always look to discover what we can do to help that individual to perform at a higher level. And if we've done that once or twice, then we should start considering if it's the right fit and if they truly just suck.
Because sometimes it does happen where people just suck, and that is perfectly okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So what happens, though, when your team members suck, even after doing your part, right? Like, what comes next? Because there's some actions in here and some behaviors.
Absolutely. So, I always recommend that first of all, we document everything that we do, not in a I'm going to get you mode, but just for the purposes of keeping track for ourselves, because we are very busy people. There's no way for us to remember all of the times that we've had conversations with people about their performance or all of the client complaints that we've received. We can't keep up with that mentally. So documenting it could be as simple as sending an email. Hey, Tom, so-and-so said that your report or presentation was not well put together and didn't answer any of the questions they presented to you last week. It could be that simple. And you want to document the concerns that you have. The other thing that you want to do is when you document them, put some information in there that talks about the behavior that you would like to see and that you are available for further support should they need it. So send some very simple documentation via email, can be a memo, whatever that looks like for you. And then over time, once you start to see a pattern develop or that person's performance is not improving, that is when you need to have a conversation with them and let them know, hey, this is not working. Here are the concerns. These are the times we've had conversations. And if you don't turn this around, we're going to have to take action, which could include termination. So that's what we do.
And one of the things I like about you, it's keep it simple. It's just be honest, be transparent, and just say what's happening.
Absolutely. Who wants to be lied to?
Nobody. Life is too short.
It is. And I don't believe that people take jobs to suck. They don't take jobs to not add value, and they don't take jobs to not give their all. I mean, okay, there are some people who really do take a job just for the paycheck. There are some, but I don't think that's the vast majority of people.
You often talk about bringing joy into the workplace. How does that lead to business results, and how does that impact the performance of teams?
That is my favorite question, Megan. Bringing joy into the workplace definitely helps the bottom line because a little earlier we talked about how turnover actually does have real cost associated with it. So if you create a joyful work experience for your team, they want to stay. They want to work in your organization. Not only do they want to stay and want to work there, but they want to help the organization to be successful because they understand that the organization's success is also their success. So creating joyful work experiences is truly the key to a successful business. And I would be willing to bet that it is the key to making the world a better place because happy people make the world a better place.
Dr. Tiffany, thanks so much for stopping by today and sharing your sage and your unique personality. You rock.
Thank you, Megan. I enjoyed this. And like I said, I love talking shop.
Thanks for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, your favorite source for all that's new and exciting in the world of work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share this podcast with everyone. And don't forget to tune in to our next episode. Catch up with you next time. Thanks to listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for a live Twitter chat with our podcast guest. To learn more about guests featured on today's show, visit the show notes for this episode at talentculture.com and help us spread the word. Subscribe to Work Trends wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, review in iTunes. Share Work Trends with your coworkers, your friends. Look forward to it. See you next time.